Good morning. This meeting of the Fremont County Board of County Commissioners is called to order. Please rise for the invocation given to us by Joe Garkovich from Mercy Today Ministries, followed immediately by the Pledge of Allegiance. Joe.
Good morning.
Let us pray. Almighty God, we thank you for this day, another day in which to serve you. As this group of dedicated individuals gathers to do this important work, I pray that you would grant them courage and compassion and wisdom to make the best decisions for all of the Fremont County residents. And I ask you to watch over all of our county employees today. Guide them and direct them in all that they say and in all that they do. And all these prayers we send to you in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Joe.
Thanks, Joe.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Grantham.
Here.
Commissioner McFall.
Present.
Commissioner Bell.
Present.
County Attorney Jackson.
Present.
County Manager Carochi.
Present.
Planning and Zoning Director Victoria.
Present.
All in our places. On to the approval of the agenda.
Mr. Chair, I don't know of any changes. I move to approve the agenda.
Second.
Has been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner McFall.
Aye.
Commissioner Bell.
Aye.
Commissioner Grantham.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Consent agenda.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve today's consent agenda with the note that we are not scheduling any public hearings out in the future today.
And just a second note on that, we are also approving officially the resolution, number 14, the precinct maps that we did 2 weeks ago, all the new precinct boundaries here in Fremont County, and reducing the number from 30 down to 20. And the ratification of the chairman's signatures on an MOU with Department of Interior, BLM, in Fremont County, and the chairman's signature on the services between the Fremont County Coroner and Harwood Funeral Services.
Mr. Chair, I second.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Bell.
Aye.
Commissioner McFall.
Aye.
Commissioner Grantham.
Aye.
Motion carries.
We're on to the administrative and informational portion of our agenda. Updates from our staff and elected officials. We will begin with our Budget and Finance Officer, Sean Sutton, for a sales and use tax report. Mr. Sutton.
Good morning, Sean.
Good morning.
Morning all, how are we?
Very good.
Good. So thought I'd start off with the retail sales tax collection for February 2023. Total collections were $680,384, which was $104,629 more than February 2022. To date, $1,276,235, which is $124,555 ahead of 2022. You'll notice we are a little behind budget, 2023 budget, but I'll discuss that later in my presentation this morning. The auto use tax collection report for March totaled $126,405, which was $16,533 more than March of 2022. To date, total collections were $333,588, up slightly at $4,538. And then to budget, we are $39,838 more. February collections for lodging were $1,901. That is $1,811 more than 2022. To date, we've had total collections of $14,533, which is $7,823 more than 2022. February collections for retail sheriff were $453,590. That is $69,753 more than 2022. To date, we've collected a total of $850,824. Again, $83,036 more than 2022. And then relative to our budget, we are $99,176 short. Sheriff auto use sales tax collection totaled $84,270 for March. That was $13,374 less than 2022. To date, we've collected $222,391. That is $21,372 short of 2022. However, in relation to budget, our 2023 budget, we are $22,391 ahead. So typically we do, we're pretty conservative on our revenue budget line items. Again, I just wanted to touch on the retail sales tax collection for both Sheriff and Fremont County. The budget, those are just static numbers throughout the year. So while it looks like we may be a little bit behind, first quarter is pretty normal for us to be behind. As the days get longer and I guess the days get warmer as well, you'll see our collections start to go up May through September. So we'll continue to monitor these numbers, but don't see anything too terribly out of place here.
Thank you, Sean. And I know we talked about this very same thing last month. Just for those that are wondering, the budget over-under is calculated based on the average over 12 months.
Correct.
And revenues don't come in evenly every month.
Correct.
And that's why we see it this way.
Yep.
So, any questions for Mr. Sutton?
No question, just an observation. The retail tax is getting higher and higher, and I'll bet you the sales of goods is not getting any higher. It's just the cost of those retail goods. So unfortunately, that's what we're dealt with right now, but I think you'll see the increase in that as we go forward here for sure.
Okay.
Tourist season always seems to make a big difference here in Fremont County, so.
does, yeah.
Yeah,
That
absolutely.
will change that lodging tax.
It
for
sure will.
And that is a quarterly report, so those are just making up, so we should see that coming in before too long.
All right, thank you,
Thank you.
Sean.
All right,
Thank you, sir.
Uh-huh.
County Clerk, monthly report. Turn to Clerk Grantham.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is our March report. So the total motor vehicle fees, sales tax, and recording fees collected for March of this year are $1,495,373.79. Of that, Fremont County's portion for disbursement is $856,994.81, which is 57% of the total fees and is $90,967.47 less than March of last year. Year to date, our office is down $128,228.28.
Okay. And is that down
From prior year collection in March of last year.
in March of last year? So that's an actual one-to-one correspondence.
That it
where
is.
we were at last year. Yeah. Okay. Any questions?
Not a question, Mr. Chair, just a comment that Fremont County portion for disbursement being over $850,000. I think a lot of folks might see that number sometimes and just think, wow, we're giving the county a lot of money. The county is not the recipient of all that money. So do not miss the word disbursement in there. That's what we share with all of our special districts and a lot of other folks.
Mr. Chair, if I can elaborate on that.
Yeah.
So there's something called specific ownership tax that's collected on all vehicles in Fremont County that's actually dispersed based on the mill levy percentages that is collected by the county for all taxing entities. And then whatever that percentage is from the mill levy, that's directly proportionate to the specific ownership tax. So some people on their renewals, they pay $3 specific ownership tax. People who just buy new vehicles, it's a whole lot more than that by far, but it's distributed amongst the 30-plus special taxing districts and schools, municipalities across the county. So the county barely keeps any of that at all, to be honest. The biggest mill levies are the school districts, so they get a huge portion of it.
Okay. Anything else? Motion.
Mr. Chair, I move to accept the March County Clerk's report.
Second.
Has been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner McFall?
Aye.
Commissioner Bell?
Aye.
Commissioner Grantham?
Aye.
Motion carries.
On to our county manager report. Turn to Tony Carochi, our county manager. Sir.
Good morning, everyone. So, a couple things. A request has been posted on BidNet Direct in the Fremont County bid portal for the Judicial Center Roof Project. This project shall generally consist of providing, constructing, and installing a total replacement of or high-performance coating of existing 24,500 square feet roof covering. Bid should clearly propose either a total replacement or a coating method. Separate and sealed bids will be received by the Fremont County Board of Commissioners at the Fremont County Administration Building, room 106, or by an electronic submission until 1:00 p.m. local time on May 24th. A non-mandatory pre-bid meeting will be conducted at the site location, which is 136 Justice Center Road, Canyon City, Colorado, on May 10th at 1:00 p.m. Just a reminder that we are still handing out trash vouchers until May 19th for our spring cleanup program. We still have a limited number of free vouchers that are available to residents in unincorporated Fremont County for disposal of household trash, furniture, construction, debris, brush, leaves, etc. The vouchers can also be picked up in room 106 at the county admin building. They are limited to one voucher per address and an ID is required. And just another reminder that this Saturday, April the 29th, we are sponsoring a recycling event from 9 a.m. till 2 p.m. and it'll be held at the Fremont County Department of Human Services parking lot. The cost will be $30 per item for televisions and CRT computer monitors. All other items are free, so I hope to see everyone there. Information for both these events is posted on our Fremont County website and Facebook. And we currently have job openings for the following areas: Department of Human Services, Sheriff's Department, Department of Transportation, the Department of Public Health. For more information about employment opportunities with Fremont County, please go to our county website, or you can call our HR department at 719-276-7411.
And that website is fremontco.com.
fremontco.com.
Thank you, sir. Any questions for Mr. Carochi?
Oh, thanks.
Okay.
Thanks, Tony.
Thank you, sir. Move on to comments from fellow commissioners. Anything today? Do you want to
Sure.
use your voice?
I'm going to attempt to use my voice. So I had the opportunity last Saturday to be out in Penrose with the renaming of Highway 115 from mile marker 15 all the way up to 27 as the VFW Warriors Memorial Highway. This is something that Jim Sheridan, especially from Penrose VFW, has been working on very, very hard for the last year. It had to get through the Colorado State Legislature, and it just kind of sailed through there, but these things still take a very long time. I just want to say again, it was an incredible event. They had people from, I think, from all over the state. A lot of motorcycles, a lot of leather, a lot of veterans were out there, and it was truly an honor to be there and to be involved. So I just wanted to give them another shout out. They did a great job with that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Fantastic. Thank you for doing that.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair. I got a couple of quick things. One, pretty exciting. I'm not even sure if you guys know this yet. We've been working on the covered pavilion out at Pathfinder Park. It's going to be 160 by 300 foot covered pavilion. Yeah, you don't know this yet, right? The building started showing up today. So the first truckload was in there this morning, and it's supposed to come the next 3 days. So that building will be popping up pretty quick, I would imagine. It means the foundation's done and ready to roll. So that's pretty exciting. Now you know.
Excellent. Now I know.
The other thing that I have.
Need-to-know basis, I guess, apparently. we
It
didn't,
was, yeah,
so.
yeah. The other thing is, I'm gonna say it again, Clerk Grantham. It's still really dry out there. We're expecting some moisture today, but Fremont County's been under stage 1 fire restrictions, but now BLM and U.S. Forest Service are also in stage 1 fire restrictions. So it's very, very dry out there. The fuels are very dry. We get some moisture, it'll help, but it's still gonna be dry in those fuels. So just be very careful if you're out and about, and be diligent. Most of the fires that have been started around the state are started by people, so don't be those people. Be safe. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Mr. Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have something informational that hopefully I can just sway people not to continuously call my office. If you're wanting to know information on if a recall is happening for a district level office, DA, Senate, House district, that is actually not the county clerk's office, it's actually the Secretary of State's office, because it involves multiple counties. So if you're wanting to know information on that, the best way to get it would be to go to govotecolorado.gov and actually access election information. You can look up information on any kind of recalls or what it would take to recall, and there's also a contact number at the bottom if you want to contact their elections division. So, just FYI.
Thank you. Just for my update, we are continuing to monitor everything that's going on at the legislature as we start rolling downhill towards the end here finally. I think as of today, there are 12 calendar days left in the session, maybe 13. I think today is day 13, actually. Hallelujah.
Except those can be very scary days.
And as we all know, those last 13 days, it can be a busy, horrible time because things tend to get pushed through, rushed through. There's not enough time for looking at the legislation, the overall effects, enough contemplation, enough debate. Things happen rather quickly, and sometimes not for our best benefit. And when I say us, I mean us as citizens, us as local governments as well. We did have some things that I know that the three of us were certainly fighting against. The so-called assault weapons ban was defeated. There are many reasons for that, and if you want to talk about that offline, I'll talk with you about that and the reasons for it. But nevertheless, it was good news. We are still fighting Senate Bill 213, which would preempt county authority in land use matters in certain situations. It's focused on municipalities right now and not on counties, but if they pass it against municipalities, they will be coming after us eventually, as the case usually is. Either way, it would be a taking of authority from the people and the most local government to them. So we are still fighting that, and right now it appears that they do not have the votes in the committee that it is waiting in, and so it continues to lay over day after day. That's also good news.
Good, yeah.
So, that being said, we are still remaining very vigilant. There is talk even today. I was telling my fellow commissioners that I just got off of Zoom before I walked down here into this room about a property taxation bill that is been talked about for the last 107 days. And now with 13 days, they are still talking about it, and it still has not been introduced. That is going to be about our property taxes in every county, at every level. This is going to be a tough year for us because the notices of valuation are going to be going out, somebody help me, what's the date? Do we know?
May 1st.
May 1st. So next week, you'll be starting to see your notices of valuation. And get ready for the sticker shock. Fremont County will not be immune to this. We will be not as much as other counties and other places as far as the rise in your property values and taxes. Be ready for it. There's talk about how we can mitigate that with legislation, and there's no great solution on how it's done, and so the only thing that makes the solution worse is that it's going to be rushed through in the last 12 to 13 days. And so we'll keep an eye on that for you, and hopefully we'll have good news 2 weeks from now, amongst all the other bad news after the legislature is done doing its business. In any case, that's all I have today. Anything else? Anybody? Time for citizens who wish to address the commissioners on a matter not scheduled on the agenda. We have several folks that have signed up, all on the same all on the same topic and all against. So just give you all just a quick update. This may help what you're going to say, maybe not. We welcome you to come and talk to us. The group that you are, and the property that you are going to be talking about has been found, and correct me if I'm wrong with how I word this, folks, but they are under violation. Lawsuit is imminent. There's not much more we can say about that particular, but we are aware, as you have told us last time, and actions are underway and being done. That being said, I welcome you up in the order that I have them here in my stack to talk to us. We just ask for the consideration of everybody here and the business that we still have before us today, that if you can help it, just please don't repeat what's already been said. We are aware, and we welcome you to come tell us what you need to tell us today. So let's start with Randy Kidd. Hello,
morning.
sir. Just
Morning.
introduce
morning.
yourself and
I'm
proceed.
Randy Kidd. I live in here in Fremont County. I live on 1147 County State Road, which is basically we have the egress, ingress from our property for Rocky Mountain Way Extreme to access their property. As we addressed in the hearing where Rocky Mountain Way Extreme was present and was trying to get their license, we talked about safety issues. We talked about dust and concerns of, that they would present by having a lot of customers up there. And we thought it would have gone away by now because they were not allowed to have a business up there, but we can still see that there is an active business. He advertises it on the website. They had a meeting for the community that they sponsored several months ago over at the community center. And one of my main concerns was the security of my family. My wife and grandson are afraid to go down to the mailbox to walk down there, and that was one of the things they really enjoyed because there was this presence of Mr. Lopez down there, and he has proved to be extremely hostile and emotional and has generated an atmosphere of contention. And so they've been staying away from that. We had the community meeting where they were trying to smooth out any misconceptions we may have had about them as a business and their personalities. And during that meeting, one of the neighbors brought up that he has been extremely hostile, and why should we believe them now that things are all of a sudden just going to magically change? And my comment was, you've been basically for 9 months telling us I'm going to do whatever the hell I want to do, excuse my language, to now we're going to be conciliatory and do everything to be good neighbors. Then one of the neighbors brought up that he had videoed his actions, and we even had it on record of his hostility, and he started doing a dance in front of us, and I'm not sure if he exactly grabbed himself like a Michael Jackson or he just put his hands down there, but he did, want to take a picture of this, and he started humping the air and thrusting his, junk towards us, and I'm sitting there looking at his representative that was there to help guide him through this, like, this is the conciliatory nature of this man? And she just kind of rolled her eyes back, and like sometimes I do with my 7-year-old grandson, like he doesn't listen to me, But he's just been out of control. And I think one of the other neighbors can address this more fully than I can about how he has continued hostility, especially with one of my next door neighbors that's closer to his property that he
has illegally used his driveway and as an egress into his property. But that's my concern. The safety has not gone away. The guy blatantly does do, you know, whatever the heck he wants. And he has kind of the attitude like they have in the rainforest. I'm going to continue to burn down trees. I'm going to continue to do whatever I want to make money until somebody makes me stop, you know? And I have concerns on that, especially after what it says happened that will be brought up by another neighbor, that we just wanted to stop. We moved out here a couple of years ago because this is a nice county, nice neighborhood. Our neighbors are great. They're good people, helpful, more like when I was raised, you know, where 65% of our neighborhood was 65 or older. Most of them were widows. We did a lot of roofing, you know, just gratis. And it seems like we have neighbors that are like that. And it's a good community, and we just want to keep it that way. And thank you for your time, and thank you for listening to me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here, Randy. Mark Hodges, welcome back, sir.
Yeah, it's me again.
Good morning.
I'm Mark Hodges, and I'm going to keep it real short here. Dwayne Bauer and Cheryl are not here. She is terrified because Rodrigo assaulted her last week. She went on the ground, and he spun the tires and spewed gravel all over her and their truck. She doesn't want to testify about him because she doesn't want to get on his revenge list. They bought property elsewhere. They said, I quit, I'm done, I'm out of here.
What were their names again, sir?
Dwayne Bauer and his wife Cheryl.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comments preceding this little section here. I appreciate the fact that even though it was rather vaguely worded, that some progress is continuing to be made, although I would like more details. And secondly, I have a rather strange sense of humor developed over the years, but I have an old dog, and he's a black lab, except for around here, he's white, and he's getting very old. So I went on the website for Fremont County Humane Society looking for potential future plans. And some of the animals on there were up for adoption and some weren't. It said there's a court-ordered hold on this dog, which I thought made sense because you don't want to lose your dog and have him adopted out from under you before you regain your composure. So, yeah, it is true that the dog catcher in Fremont County can get a court order to hold a stray dog. So I'm hoping that this same philosophy is applied to Rodrigo because he's out of control. I'll leave it go at that.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Sean? Mike?
I'll defer, so somebody else can speak.
Okay,
Thank you, sir.
thank you, sir. Michael
Something.
Florin.
Handwriting is horrible. Yeah.
Is that
F-L-O-R-E-N.
F-L-O-R-E-N?
Correct.
Thank
Yep.
you.
All right, so my name's Michael Florin. I was here, I don't know, 6-8 months ago, something like that. I'm a Marine Corps veteran. I was a sniper in the Marine Corps. For the last decade, I've worked with military veterans, mostly in the Army and the Marines, that are combat veterans coming over and helping them adapt back to civilian society. I bought 200 acres on the top of the hill to create a veterans retreat, a quiet place that we could go to and decompress against dealing with civilians. Because when we're in the military, we're taught and we do one thing, then we're back in civilian life, and now it's strange to us, right? So at this property, that was 200 acres, right, had a little metal building, and I had targets set up out to 1,400 yards. I want to tell you a little story about the first time that I actually had a run-in with Rodrigo, just so you guys can understand kind of the basis here. So I have suppressors, and I'm on my property from a hilltop shooting to my property, another hilltop. It's 1,430-something yards. The hang time of that bullet is about 2 seconds in the air. So everything's clear, everything's quiet. I'm up there, I'm quiet, and I shoot around. Well, in 2 seconds, it takes that round to hit that target. Everything's great. I shoot another round. I go to hit the target, and a kid comes up and over the hill on a motorcycle onto my property right in front of that target as that bullet's impacting that target. I shut everything down right then and there, tried to figure out what was going on, came down to the main road on my property and saw a bunch of motorcyclists coming through, asked them what's going on. They said, oh yeah, we got permission to come up here and ride wherever we want. So I go down and I meet Rodrigo for the first time. I met his wife, and they said very specifically, oh yeah, we've met with Michael Florin, we've met with Tom, we met with everybody. Everybody loves us, they're good with it. They said we can do whatever they want up there. I says, well, I'm Michael Florin, I'm shooting targets up there, you're trespassing, and one of your people almost got shot. So I had to explain that to him, and then she shut down, shut up real quick, because she said she knew me, and she talked to me, and that she had my permission to be on my property. So anyways, this is what has happened, right? There was a physical altercation. I'm out there with 2 other people, and we're on a road, and we're wondering why this big excavator's there. Just wondering, right? We know there's easements there. I own a mortgage company, so I understand real estate law to a degree. So there is an easement out there, and so he got a big excavator to build a road, and he comes over physically, pretty aggressive towards me, and we have about half of it on video. I'm a concealed carry person, also military veteran. So I'm very calm, cool, and collected when it comes to this. Did anything bad happen? No. Why? Because nothing bad happened. Problem is if I'm trying to run a veteran center up there, where we're trying to get away from people, and we got one hot-headed person who's actually aggressive towards military veterans that are just coming back from overseas, something bad's gonna happen. So right when that happened, I shut everything down. Everything's gone. Veteran retreat, gone. Shooting area, gone. Everything's gone. So from that point in time, I stopped going to the property. I put it up for sale and sold it, and just barely sold it 2 weeks ago. So what could have been a nice, quiet veterans retreat, I can't risk somebody getting injured. I can't risk someone getting put down for something stupid from the stupid mentality of somebody from Brazil. Now, in the military, being a sniper, I was part of special operations. I've worked with people with his mentality and mindset from South America. The only way that those people think is if something physical is done back to them. That's how they think, that's how they behave. When you're in Brazil, that's what you do. I'm here, I'm in control, I have it until somebody else takes it from me. So he will not change what he's doing until the county physically does something about it. So anyways, I've sold that, we've shut that whole thing down. We're just working somewhere else. I'm actually looking at about 1,000 acres in Arkansas just to get away from this, and I will end up flying these veterans to my place in Arkansas to help them decompress there because of this guy, because of these problems, because he just can't control himself, right? Now, in the meantime, I did just buy 40 acres at the bottom of the hill away from him because one of the property owners there wanted to sell, and I didn't want to give the ability for this guy to get more acreage. So I went ahead and just bought it. Why? Because it is just money in that regard. Now, the people that did buy the 200 acres, they're aware of it, and they're going to stay quiet, and they're just not going to do anything. Here's your other problem. They are also Second Amendment people, but they're civilians. They don't understand when something is good or bad or dangerous or not, so it's something possibly bad could happen there if he has the same basic mentality he had towards me, towards them. But they're aware of it. Now, trying to sell the property, you know how difficult it was to sell it? I took about a $200,000 pay cut on it because of the motorcycles, because of when a buyer was actually looking at the property, they did some basic research and they're like, nope, I'm out. I don't want it at all. So I ended up taking 200 acres and selling it for roughly $200K less than what it should have been sold for. So is there a financial hurt? Yeah. Do I care? No, right? But I don't want to put veterans in a position where they're compromised. I don't want to put him in a position where he's compromised. But his perception, his mentality, the way he acts and behaves, if you don't understand that, if you haven't been overseas to see that type of mentality, you don't understand it. Therefore, you don't know how to interact with it. And I can tell you for a fact, he will keep doing what he's doing until somebody shows up and says, you cannot do this anymore. Here's your physical proof. Now, one last thing. I have 2 friends. I'm not going to say who they are. They actually went over to his business to pay for him to see how that worked. It was about 8 months ago and about 6 months ago. They pay money, they go do the thing. They're like, yep, you're right, it's an active business. I pay money, I go do this thing. It's great. Now, they're motorcyclists, they love that kind of thing, but once they understood the whole premise behind it, you know, they understood, okay, cool. But I wanted to get firsthand information, firsthand data to say, is it actually a business, or is this guy trying to promote something that's actually not going anywhere? Nah, it's making money. It's there. He doesn't care, and he won't. Okay? That's basically it.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Michael.
Thank you for your service too, sir.
Eric Kruger.
I was a property owner up by Rodrigo. He bought the Keystone property in between me and Mike. I had a cabin up there. It's my dream to have a cabin away from everybody. I can go do what I want, be left alone. First weekend, he bought the Keystone property in between our two properties, which I regret not buying now. There were about 70 people parked on that and going wherever they wanted. The next weekend, he took a bulldozer and he bulldozed 10 to 15 acres of wood, which is against our covenants, if you guys have read our covenants, into the ground, including the road from my property to the main property. He made a mud pit that I couldn't even get to my property. So I sold my property, dealing with him and dealing with all his problems. So I literally got rid of my property because of him. So a couple things, so I didn't know if you guys knew that he had done that. Also, he is actively promoting this business. Owner of Apex Cycles told me to my face, the guy that owns Apex Cycles, they're doing a big thing up there, Red Bull, like still. Something else that you guys probably don't know is that before I'd ever met Rodrigo, he had actually called the police on me and told him, the police, that I had threatened him and his wife with a gun. I'd never met him. Told the cops, identify me in a lineup. They were like, "What are you talking about?" I'd never met the guy. So during the meeting that he was talking about, where he was doing the dance and all that stuff, me and Mike stayed afterwards. We actually recorded it, and I questioned him to this, and his exact response to me was, "You have gun. I know you have gun." And I was like, "Dude, I never even met you guys. I don't even own a gun." "Yeah, you do." "No, that's Mike, dude." "Oh," like he had no answer. He wouldn't answer the question. So this is the individual that we're dealing with. I literally sold my property because of him, the dream that I had my whole life. And he's unhinged. He doesn't care. Threatens people. He does not care. And that's why I left. I bought in property with Mike at the bottom, so I don't have to deal with him. I can be off to the side. But this guy, trespassing, don't care, told me he'd cut trees on my property, that he's gonna do whatever he wants. And I had brought up, you can't cut trees for trails and stuff like that. So some of the covenants, you guys go up there. He made a 10-acre mud pit on the top of the mountain, cleared everything. When I say everything, grass, mud, there's no road, there's no nothing. Bulldoze all on the ground. So that's my experience. Thought I'd let you guys know my experience that I've had.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
guys.
Sean, second chance? Okay.
Thank you for hearing me again. So my name is Sean. I live in Red Rocks. I'm a fair few miles away, but at the risk of repeating a few things, they have ruined the tranquility of this amazing community that I bought into. I'm very pleased to hear that there are things in motion. So I really do appreciate hearing that firsthand here today. My hope is that it is not too late out there. And that's really all I got. I should have read the thing that my wife sent me. But I didn't want to repeat.
What was your last name again?
Baber, that's Baker, Alpha Baker, Echo Romeo.
Baber.
Baber.
Yeah, Baber, B-A-B-E-R.
Gotcha.
I have terrible handwriting, I apologize.
That's all right.
I'm college educated, but I can't write to save my life.
Man, I make my own notes and then can't read them, so I get it.
Well, thank you all for coming and speaking on that issue. Really appreciate that. And as I said before, just for what little comfort it may be, we do have things in the works. And Mark, come on up. And there isn't any detail really to give you at this point.
Well, that leads into my question. If I give you my email, would you let me know when the hammer falls so that I can disseminate that information to my neighbors?
Of course. Yeah, why don't you write it down for us? unless you want everybody, the millions of people around the world.
Just grab another one of them slips if you would and write on that. We've got the other slips up here.
I'll do that.
Just get it to us, yeah.
You just get
Thank
it to us by the end of the meeting, it'd be fine. And if you head out earlier, then just bring it up to the clerk or Mr. Carochi. Sir,
So I did have one more question that I forgot to ask when I was up.
You have
come to the mic, please.
Apologies. So one of the things in my wife's letter was, how can we help? So when things start moving, and I remain hopeful that they continue to move, anything that y'all need, I guess we can use Mark as a line of communication for the community. Please let us know how we can help.
Absolutely.
That's all we want to do.
Absolutely.
Is help.
You bet. Thank you very much for that. Thank you, Mark.
All right.
Should give it to the clerk there, and this is still a time for citizens to speak. Is there anybody else that wishes to speak on something that is not on the agenda? All right, seeing none, we will move on. Again, thank you guys for everybody coming and letting us know that. Thank you for listening. You bet. Sure. Next is old business. There is none, so we move on to new business. First item on new business. That's your cue, but I'm just waiting for commotion.
No worries.
There we go. First item on new business is a proclamation naming May as Foster Care Awareness Month. We have with us a representative for this, Tanya Sutton from our Department of Human Services. Tanya.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Nice to see you all. Thanks for having me. Before I jump right into the proclamation, brought just some numbers to share to really show the reason that this is such a big deal, not only for those of us that work at the department, but for our community. We currently have 57 children in foster care from Fremont County. Of those 57 children, we have 19 that are placed through child placement agencies, which means it's an agency that certifies foster homes, and then they place those children within their homes, and they oversee those. All of those CPAs are outside of Fremont County. And so unfortunately, we have a large number of children outside of Fremont County. We currently have 2 children that are actually living in independent living, which is a great thing. And we have 7 that are with a certified kinship family. So that means it's a family that knew the children, family-like maybe, and they actually went through the certification process. It's a lengthy process. We know that. We try to make it as streamlined as possible. Big number, 23 are with non-certified kin. And so even though May is National Foster Care Month, we really like to recognize all of these people that are caring for children, not just the certified families. We only have 5 certified foster homes in our county right now. When I first started at the department 15 years ago, I remember we had 33 certified foster homes. The great news is we only have 57 children in care, and so we don't need as many. That's great. That means that kids are staying with their families, which is where they belong, but it's still a need. And so just wanted to kind of point out those numbers. Currently, of our 57 kiddos, only 4 are in a certified foster home from Fremont County. So we have staff working diligently, trying to recruit, but May's a great time to really bring kind of this to the forefront and let people know how important it is. So with that, I'll go ahead and read the proclamation.
Excellent, thank you.
You betcha. Fremont County Board of County Commissioners proclamation. Whereas Foster Care Awareness Month is celebrated each May nationally to raise awareness regarding foster care and to encourage increased community involvement as foster families, volunteers, or mentors. And whereas there are numerous individuals, nonprofit organizations, and public servants who are dedicated to raising awareness about the needs of children and youth in foster care. And whereas children are the key to Colorado's future success, prosperity, and quality of life. And whereas children have a right to thrive, learn, and grow. And whereas the Human Service Agency oversees the children and youth in foster care in Fremont County with the goal of ensuring safety, permanency, and well-being of children in Fremont County. And whereas those who have wholeheartedly committed to the welfare of the children in foster care despite all of its legal, economic, and social challenges, continue to fight to protect the rights of children and improve their outcomes. And whereas Colorado is experiencing an acute shortage of foster families and is in need of families willing to care for teens, children with complex behavioral and mental health needs, and sibling groups. And whereas we must recognize the important role foster parents play in caring for children who have experienced abuse and neglect, supporting family reunification, and building strong communities. And whereas foster parents provide the love, safety, and stability that young children need in order to overcome past traumatic experiences in order to reach their full potential. Whereas we all play a role in ensuring Fremont County's children are healthy and safe and are able to reach their full potential. Now we ask that the Fremont County Board of County Commissioners proclaim the month of May 2023 as Foster Care Month.
Thank you for that.
You bet. Quick plug, we're celebrating our foster families on May 12th at Pathfinder Park at 3 o'clock with a superhero picnic. So if anybody would like to join us, we'll be celebrating them and hopefully having lots of fun. Thank you guys so much.
But do we get to dress up as superheroes?
Yes, we will be in costume.
Excellent. Any comments?
Yes, Mr. Chair, if I may.
Please.
I just would like to say thank you, not only to Tanya, but for the entire department for caring about these kids. Because along with the elderly, children really are some of our most very fragile population. And they deserve good futures, they deserve bright futures, and I think with foster families, they can find those. And so I just want to say thank you for all the work that you do. And with that, Mr. Chair, I move to proclaim the month of May 2023 as Foster Care Month here in Fremont County.
Thank you.
I will second that, and then I have a comment too, so I'll second it. And with the comment, and Tanya, if you would come back up, please. Ran off. I agree, thank you for what you do, but if somebody was interested in becoming a foster family, foster parent or something, what can they do? Who can they get a hold of and
You bet.
how?
Yeah, so no wrong door. Once you come into the Department of Human Services, we will automatically get you to the right person. One of those staffing shortages Mr. Croce mentioned is in this area, but we're working diligently to get it filled and make sure that the need is still met. So anybody that's interested can come to the department or call us at our main number and just ask for the foster care program.
And
Thank
that
you for
number
that.
is?
27719-275-2318.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Thank
that.
you.
Thanks.
Appreciate
Thank you,
it.
Tanya, appreciate that. It's this, and we've actually had several others already this year where we've had proclamations for special weeks or months, and it's always a good opportunity for us to brag on the great job that our employees are doing out at our DHS. And I say it again, we have counties that are honestly jealous of how things operate here in Fremont County versus how they operate there. So, and that goes across many departments, actually. It's a very stark contrast for how good our operations are. And we do have some holes to fill, even then. So even short-staffed, we're still better than most. So we appreciate all the work you guys do out there. It has been moved and seconded. Any further comments? Roll call.
Commissioner Bell,
Aye.
Commissioner McFall,
Aye.
Commissioner Grantham.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, we are on to item number 2 under new business. This is minor subdivision 22-002, Bison Ridge Minor Subdivision, requesting approval for a minor subdivision creating 2 lots. And with us is the representative for this, Renee Still Day. Come on up to the mic if you can.
Well, give me a second here. He doesn't always go on. Okay.
And just introduce yourself and what you're doing on this property.
Okay. I'm Renee Stillday. I'm dividing my land into 2 parcels because I want to stay in this county because I love it. And if I can sell off part of it to supplement my income so that I can survive for the next 10 plus years, I hope. That's the idea. And I want to thank Dan for his help. And I want to thank Commissioner Bell for being my emotional support. She listened to me cry.
And
over
here
the
we
phone
are.
patted me on the
Yes,
back
and
and
here
said,
we
it's going to be
are."
okay, don't worry, don't worry. But it's a long process, and for an individual, it's pretty hard. But we got there. So I
Okay.
wanted to thank everybody.
Okay, any questions for Ms. Day?
No, sir.
Not at this time.
Then I will turn to our Planning and Zoning Director, Dan Victoria, for his staff report.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
So we have here the minor sub 22-002 Bison Ridge applicant Renee Stillday. She's requesting a 2-lot subdivision. Lot 1 is 5.04 acres and lot 2 will be 4.5 acres. They're located in the agricultural rural zone district on 6th and G in Penrose. The size of both these lots is in conformance with that zone requirement. Lot 2 is where Renee currently resides with a dwelling and 4 outbuildings. The applicant has requested waivers. She's requested a waiver of the topographic and soil information, the drainage plan map and report, the individual wastewater treatment report, and a detailed utility plan. We had comments from Icon Engineering. It is our understanding that the subject property is for a minor subdivision without any physical improvements to the property. Our review of the submitted materials revealed a minor concern regarding the project. Icon recommended the exemption approach should be confirmed by county planning and zoning. Also, the lack of a topographical information makes them unable to assess the need for drainage ways. We recommend that the presence or lack of any drainage way be confirmed. Fremont County Department of Transportation, driveway access permits will be required for each lot. And then Penrose Water District supplied comment, Lot 1 has an approved water contract, Lot 2 already has service. So planning and zoning, the department recommendations. The drainage plan and report, the department does not recommend waiving this requirement on residential properties. And the topographic and soils report, the department does not recommend waiving this requirement. If the board chooses, the drainage plan can be a contingency of approval prior to it being recorded. We would also ask that the address issuance application be applied for at the time of development of Lot 1 and the driveway access applied for at the time of development of Lot 1.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Victoria?
I do not.
Okay.
I'll just make a comment right quick, just so you're aware. We have a full packet in front of us, and we've had the opportunity to study this, so I think either you answered questions or he did if I had them prior to that, so it's not like we're just sitting here waiting for something going on. We have a lot of papers in front of us to read.
A lot of papers, I know.
Yeah, yeah, you know how many it is.
I know.
There's 85 pages on
85
this
pages.
one.
I think twice before doing this again.
So we do have the information in front of us.
Okay,
I do have a question for you, Renee.
yes.
Looking at the split that you want to make, I'm curious, sorry, I'm curious to know why it's not just a straight line, why it comes down, cuts across, comes back
I
down.
had a concrete slab poured and an outbuilding built on that. So they had to kind of do a little dog leg around that, so I didn't have to tear it up.
Is it still there?
It's still there, yeah.
Okay.
It's a nice building.
Okay.
I really didn't want to move it.
Mr. Victoria, could you repeat what you had talked about on the drainage waiver request? And you mentioned something about a contingency and
Yeah,
such.
so one of the options you guys have if you choose is to require a drainage plan be submitted as a contingency of the approval. So you'd be able to make a motion today to approve this subdivision after a drainage plan would be submitted and reviewed by our engineer and approved. So we wouldn't have to table this, and the only delay would be the applicant hiring out to have the drainage plan done and have it submitted, and we'd review it in-house. And typically there's a 6-month time frame that somebody could submit additional materials. to us. And if it doesn't work in that 6-month time frame, they could always ask for an extension to submit additional paperwork that you guys required. But my recommendation would be a contingency of the approval for the drainage.
May I say something about that?
Yes.
At the last meeting, the waiver was approved, and the reason being, it would cost me another $5,000 to do it. And the buyer, when they came in, would be changing the topography, and the drainage may change at that time too, so they're gonna have to do it again. And right now, the property's not being changed at all. There's just that line being drawn on a piece of paper. So nothing's changed at all by dividing it at this time. So the extra $5,000 would be a really burden on me at this point in time. I've already paid out like $16,000 to, over the period of time, to get this accomplished. And I just feel like, you know, having to do that is a burden, and an unnecessary burden at this time.
Well,
Because the drainage doesn't change. Nothing changes, nothing's being moved on the property at all until it's sold.
I want to challenge you on something.
Okay.
It may be a burden, and I get that. No one in this room wants to write a check for $5,000. But it's not an unnecessary one. Drainage plans are necessary.
I agree that they are necessary. I just don't think they're necessary right now because nothing's changed on the property. Nothing's being built or moved or altered in any way from the way it's been since I bought it. Not until the buyer chooses to change that would that be actually necessary, in my opinion.
I'm not sure from putting lines on a piece of paper and splitting the property, you know, going from that to a building, putting improvements on the property, I'm not sure how that changes the drainage exactly to that extent.
Maybe they decide to put a pool in, or they want to raise where they're putting the home. I don't know. Maybe.
I guess just to a little background on this, there's concerns on the waiving of the drainage study and the drainage requirements. Looking back in our history, we probably haven't been as consistent as we should have been on this. But it is, from our standpoint, more necessary on the front end than on the back end. I don't think I will be comfortable on waiving the drainage, and I apologize if that is a burden, and I get that. But make no mistake, I feel like that is a necessary evil in these situations.
I've bought land to build on over my 78 years twice. And it was on me, the onus was on me when I bought to do those things before I built. It wasn't on the seller. So I'm not quite sure why it would be on the seller now and not the buyer.
So are there drainage studies that have to go in for the building permit process?
Not for residential.
No, not for residential. I actually spoke with the building official yesterday, and he says the only involvement he has with drainage typically, when it comes to that, is within 10 to 15 feet of the home to make sure it's not pitched towards the home and bring water that direction. But beyond that, his permitting process will not involve drainage.
But where it does come in for the person doing the building, improving the property after the fact, is during a commercial development plan.
Yes, so if it is a business lot or an industrial lot during the commercial development plan process, they would be required to show a drainage plan with their improvements that they're doing at that time. So on business and industrial, it is different than residential.
Okay,
So, Mr. Chair, if I may,
please.
just a comment on that. I think we have approved those in the past. And we've also had some trouble because we've approved those waivers in the past. And we've dictated that it be notated on the plat. And however it happened, lack of communication, whatever, it never was notated on the plat, and it's caused trouble in the future for when people have bought it. So we should have probably never allowed those, I think, in the past. And I think we've got to get that straight where we don't have those problems in the future. And the lack of communication, or however that happens, that it doesn't get stated on the plat, causes a problem. And so I kind of have a problem with waiving that as well, Mr. Chair.
Any other comments?
I do have a question for Dan, if I may. I know we're focused right now on the request for a waiver of the drainage plan and report, but I also see that you are recommending no waiver of the topographic and soils report. Can you just dive a little bit into that to explain why?
I would love to. So the reason why I don't support the waiver on either one of those is when this application was submitted, if a topo and soils report was provided, Icon Engineering, they referenced that if even the topo could have been provided, they could have made a guess if there would be any substantial drainage issues. But since nothing was provided and everything was waived, or the waiver was requested, they couldn't guess at all. They had no idea how to accurately evaluate this property. So because the waivers were requested, I have it that I do not recommend waiving either one of those, but during the drainage plan report, it would address the topographic report if that was required. So we need something, I feel.
And Icon specifically states they don't recommend it because of the lack of those reports.
Yeah, so the topographic, me not recommending that waiver is in reference to Icon's language.
Okay.
But the drainage would address the topo.
But these both clearly are requirements in our code.
Yes, yeah, they're in our regulations.
Thank you.
May I ask how long that's going to take once I get those reports done? I mean, how many more months before?
So if you hired someone and they completed a drainage report for your property and you turned it in, I would submit that over to the county engineer. He would review it. Depending on his caseload, he's normally about a week. And providing that everything is satisfactory to the county engineer, we would then be able to record the plat.
Okay.
So the longest part of that process would be the individual completing the drainage report.
Okay. You guys are killing me.
But we're not trying to do that.
$16,000 and 14 months so far, and it's really been a long haul. A long haul. So, you know, for an individual trying to do it, it's very difficult. So, I'll get it done.
Okay. I have a motion or anything?
Sure, Mr. Chair, I've got a motion for you.
Okay.
I move to approve MS 22-002 Bison Ridge Minor Subdivision. It's a request for a minor subdivision that will create two total lots. One is 5.04 acres, the other one is 5.4 acres. It is an agricultural rural zone district on 6th Street and G Street in Penrose. We will have to have a contingency for a drainage report with a waiver for the driveway access, address, utility plan until building. Deferment until
So do I
building.
have to have the drainage and the topography?
The drainage.
Just the drainage?
Just the drainage
Just the
one.
drainage.
Okay.
And I'm glad you brought it up because the topo and soil is pretty much the information we need there is in the drainage report.
Yes.
And so that won't be a requirement, an additional requirement.
Okay,
So a deferment for those, the driveway access address and utility plan until building permit is pulled.
very good.
Okay, I'll second.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Did we catch everything?
I think so.
Okay.
You did.
Before we move on, I want to make sure. Okay, it has been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner McFall.
Aye.
Commissioner Bell.
Aye.
Commissioner Grantham.
Aye.
Motion carries.
One note I would like to make here, Mr. Chair, if I may, is that I know our applicant addressed a couple of times that it's been a long process, and I don't know if she had gone through this meeting, but the department does offer a pre-application meeting where requirements are discussed. Everything is explained, where you know going in before you ever begin filling out an application, you know exactly what those requirements are going to be and what you need to do. And so I just want to make the public aware that that absolutely is a part of our process, and I would urge anyone looking at any kind of an application within the Planning and Zoning Department to take full advantage of that. Thank you.
And to pile on, Mr. Victoria is working diligently to try to streamline a few things as well. That may be overdue, but regardless of that, we are in the process of trying to do that and make things better across many different sorts of things in the department, and we appreciate his work that he's doing, and those that have been dealing with some of the new things that have been going on in the county. We just appreciate those that are citizens that are working patiently with the department, and Mr. Victoria, who is working diligently to change those things. Next on the agenda, item number 3 is minor subdivision 23-001, Canyon Farms minor subdivision, and some guy named Matt Koch.
Good morning.
A familiar face to us
I already
all.
feel a little beat up. So we are requesting.
Just wait.
Yeah, I know. We are requesting a 2-lot subdivision. It's located on Adams Avenue off of McKenzie to the east. To the south and east of this property is prison property, so there really is no more development in that area based on that. This is approximately 14 and a half acres. We're dividing into 2 lots. One lot will be 0.74. That will retain the existing house and structures on that lot. The 13 plus acre lot is vacant. It's agricultural field right now. They're planning on building a house on that lot. All utilities are adjacent. There's public sewer that actually runs through the property, and city water is available in Adams. Black Hills and Atmos have lines right out in the street in front as well. We did ask for a deferment of the drainage plan till building permit time. The reasoning for that is this is almost 14 acres. It depends on where you build. If you build in the northeast corner, it impacts the properties and everything to the other sides differently than if you built on the southeast corner, or if you built on the northwest corner. There's actually a lot to look at when you do these drainage plans. We are not asking for a waiver. We are asking for a deferment. We have requested these over the last several years on subdivisions. They've been granted, and it's worked really well for our clients. There is a note on the plat deferring that. At the time, typically a building permit, it's sent to planning and zoning. Typically, planning and zoning reviews the plats to see what requirements are made. They will note back to the building department that a drainage plan is required. At that time, one will be required before a building permit is issued. This has worked really well, and so we do request a deferment of the drainage plan by a note on the plat. Other than that, if you have any questions.
I'll weigh in on that. It hasn't worked that well. We're looking
It has
at
for the people of the county.
It's been an inconsistent thing should have been more consistent, maybe on our part, on how that was done. But I'm not sure how in every or any situation that this is a necessary thing to happen on the back end. I get what you're saying on the larger lot here, on lot 2. I do understand that. But I guess I don't understand how a drainage plan on the front end and getting it done with is going to significantly be impacted on the back end by a particular location.
So if a drainage pond, a detention facility is required, where do you put it? And then you have to drain all that water, depending on where you build, into that pond. You're talking about a lot of extra excavation and costs to the people trying to develop the property.
Which all of that would be better informed with a drainage plan on the front end.
But then you're forcing people to build in certain places on their property, you're taking away the use of the property.
A drainage plan does not force anything in particular.
It does if they dedicate a certain area for a pond. If they dedicate the very southeast corner for a pond and they build in the northwest corner, you have to dig trenches and drains and swales over to that pond. I mean, logistically, you can't do it. But that's what the drainage plan that you're requiring now may say has to happen.
And so in that scenario, there's no drainage plan on the front end. There's a pond over in the one corner. Then what happens when they come and they want to build? They want to build on that corner where the drainage plan on the front end says there should be a drainage pond. Then
If they
what?
want to build right there, they have to revise it. Typically, they wouldn't build right there. I mean, I think that's, common sense.
So I mean, the
But if you-
drainage that's inherent to the site is going to be limiting on the ability to build on the site to begin with.
Not necessarily. This site drains from the northeast to the southwest. If they build the house in the northeast corner, that pond needs to be down back behind the existing lot. If they build on the southeast corner, then the pond just needs to be right there in front of their house draining out. I mean, it causes a stress on the people trying to navigate this.
So what situations would you say that there should never be a drainage plan waiver?
I don't know if there should never be one. I think you should always take that a look at it. Can we do some general idea for a smaller lot, do a deferment for the larger lots, the Penrose lots? We have 4.5 acres out there all the time. Lots of hills, lots of things like that. If you build in certain areas there's no way, you have to build all of these swales, all these maintenance-filled areas to try to get the water to certain locations. We're not trying to rewrite the world. We're just trying to do it with some common sense on how we actually use and manipulate the property to make it work the best.
Any questions?
Ready for staff report?
Mr. Victoria, please.
All right. Hello, everyone. Minor sub 23-001, Canyon Farms minor subdivision. Applicant is Robert Wright and Julie Wright. Consultant, Matt Koch. Lot 1 is proposed to be 0.74 acres. Lot 2, 13.87 acres. The subject property is located in the Agricultural Suburban Zone District on Adams Avenue in Canyon City. These lots, as proposed, meet the minimum requirements for that zone district. Lot 1 has a dwelling and a garage. Lot 2 has no improvements. Applicant requested a waiver of the drainage plan. The comments we had from the county engineer, the applicant is requesting deferment of the drainage plan until the subsequent development of each lot. Deferment was not recommended. And then we have Fremont County Department of Transportation. Driveway access permits will be required for each lot. Planning and Zoning Department recommendations. Drainage plan and report. The department does not recommend deferring the drainage plan until the time of building. If the board chooses, the drainage plan can be a contingency of approval prior to being recorded. Address issuance application applied for at the time of development of each lot, and driveway access applied for at the time of development of each lot. So besides how we address the drainage plan and the address issuance and access, I recommend approval for the subdivision as it meets.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Mr. Victoria?
Yes. I would like to. I apologize. I would like to ask you if there's any part of Mr. Koch's argument about the drainage plan and the timeline of that would make the department say, oh, yeah, maybe we should go ahead and just defer.
He does have valid points to his argument. Depending on where you build, it could impact, but typically you wouldn't be building in the lowest portion where the property is draining to anyways. So on one hand, where you try to locate a drainage pond could impact your building site, but chances are if your drainage pond is where everything's naturally draining, you're probably not going to put your home there anyways. In the Planning Commission, he had brought up the fact that it could be more accurate, or it would be more accurate knowing the square footage of the roof of the structures on the lot. That portion of it is true. Knowing what sort of impervious surface is there would make it more accurate. The problem is when we just stare at a plat and we don't have anything other than the plat in front of us, depending on some of the topography in this county, we could be approving a subdivision of a completely unusable lot that could have a lot of negative impacts down the road.
Okay.
I feel we just need more information.
All right. Thank you.
Topography was part of the application. It was submitted with the application, so you had that in front of you.
Yes, sir.
So, I mean, you could reasonably make an assumption on that.
Yeah, so we just talked about that a second ago. Will you address that?
Yeah, so to Matt's point, this application, topography was submitted on it. So I guess to his argument there, it's the next slide up. You can see the topography. So we would not be, with topo being supplied, we would not be making an unusable lot or creating a hardship. But I still feel with drainage would align with the topography of the lot, which would align with the drainage, the natural drainage of the lot. Most people are not going to build their home exactly where the land would drain to. So does it impact where somebody could put their home? Yes, but it most likely is not the best site for putting a home anyways. That is just my opinion.
So I think, I appreciate that, but I think trying to be consistent here, and in the last deal, you said if she would have put in a topo and soils that they could have guessed at the drainage. Why is that not the case in this one?
So we had all of the waivers on the last application, and we had absolutely nothing to go off of based off of her request. On this, you could make a guess to which direction the drainage is going to go based off of the topography. But I still feel that that would be bare minimum at best. If it wasn't for Icon making the comment about the topographic waiver on that, I don't know if the topo necessarily would have been brought up, and to me, the main sticking point is having the drainage report. That drainage report tells us everything that we're gonna need to know about a lot. On this, I mean, we can make a guess based off of it. We could see which way stuff is most likely going to go, but I don't feel that it's satisfactory. I don't like guessing, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
And I understand that having an approach where everything fits together every time is the easiest way to do it. But just like the land legislation that's in Colorado right now, where they're trying to create cookie cutter approaches for everybody, doesn't always work, and you can't take that approach on every piece of property.
I would just respond to that, Matt, and say we never look for the easiest way to do things.
And
I mean,
agree.
we absolutely could be doing everything totally and completely different if we were actually looking for the easiest way to do things, so.
Well, and I guess, if you don't mind, Mr. Chair. Kind of the point I made earlier, that we've discovered that sometimes it does not get put on the plat like it's intended to be done, which causes problems. That's the only reservation I have with this one, and I don't know how you make that happen every time. There's no guarantee that's gonna happen every time.
My clients are actually going out of town for several weeks, so we already have the plat signed and ready to go with a note on it specifically for the drainage. It's been on, I've had 6 or 7 of these approved over the last few years, and they all have had the notes on them.
So, back to Commissioner McFall's question on the topo, Mr. Victoria. What's the major difference here between this situation and the prior situation? I didn't follow.
Yeah, I still
Okay.
don't get that either.
So the prior situation, since there was waivers requested on everything to do with that application, that application was very difficult to review. And it did take many, many months on that application for everything to be presentable to you guys, as the pre-application meetings and numerous attempts to get that applicant in the office to assist them with that project were resisted. So the last application was extremely difficult. On this application, we do have the topographic there, so you can see which way the natural watercourse would be on that land. So if you were to look at Icon Engineering's language, is that they weren't able to make an estimate or a guess at the drainage because there was no topo. At best, you can make a guess at this drainage and how this would work based off of the topo. Estimates and guesses are not something I like to be a part of. I would like to have specific information so we can see exactly what is occurring there, rather than looking at it and just see that it generally would sheet in one direction. You know, with the information that was provided with the topo and no drainage on this, you could see that our own engineer did not recommend deferment. So it gives you an idea of what is occurring on that land, but it did not conclusively tell you what is occurring on that land.
And to that, until we know where we're gonna build the house and where we're gonna be needing to know that stuff, we don't know what's gonna happen until they get that ready. And I'm not trying to fight that we don't need a drainage plan.
Yes, sir.
I mean, we're just trying to get it deferred until the building permit time. I think drainage should always be looked at. I think many of the state statutes were put in place to deal with smaller lots, but even the bigger lots impact. So they should always be looked at.
Mr. Chair, if I might, just a comment. I appreciate your explanation, but I'm still not clear, because this application is the same as the other one. Let's take away her request for a waiver for everything. And let's say she didn't request a waiver for everything, as Mr. Cook hasn't, but consistency.
Yes,
You
sir.
said if a topo and soils had been submitted, then we could take a guess at it.
Yeah.
And now this one, it has been submitted and we can't, or we shouldn't, or we don't recommend that. So I'm still torn with that there.
So if on the last
I
application.
get the drainage part
Yep.
too, by the way.
If-
I
if on-
understand it, but.
If on the last application, even if a topo was submitted on that, I still would have requested the drainage plan be completed. If the topo was submitted on that application, I still would not have been comfortable, or I still would have been making the request to not defer the drainage plan until time of building. So That would not change application to application. The only thing that the topo on the other application would have done differently was it would have provided the engineer the ability to take a guess at what was going on there. But if a topo was in that other application, I still would have been making the recommendation to not.
Thanks.
Yes, sir.
Okay, if I may.
Okay.
It seems just common logic that a drainage plan is going to assist a building owner or builder in figuring out where the best place is for that particular building. It seems as though otherwise, if you wait to say, well, this is where we want to build, how can we make that happen, that you're allowing the placement of the building to not override, but to somehow guide and form what the drainage plan is going to look like.
And that seems more logical, knowing the actual values and actual what you're dealing with, to dictate where you put it rather than being 12 acres away from where you're actually building the house. I mean, it almost seems more logical to know you're dealing with 2,500 square feet of impervious area over here. How do we manage that before it impacts even the rest of this property?
But you still have to do the whole overlot drainage.
Well, you have to look at the whole thing. You have to look at the whole thing. But if we detain it closer to the building where we can direct the downspouts into it, where we can manage that, rather than flowing across to a swale, to down the swale into a pond, outfalling into somewhere, I mean, you create a lot more logistical.
But those are the decisions you make based on the drainage plan. Where to place the house, where the downspout should be draining to.
But we have 14
in order
acres.
to retain historic or below.
Right.
You need to establish historic, and that's a vacant lot study regardless of where you put the house. Then you use the study to find your site.
Which doesn't make any sense, because this slopes from northeast to southwest, gradually all the way across. They could build anywhere on the property. So what you're saying is we need to dictate where they build by the drainage plan.
Somebody's gonna have to do a 13-acre study.
Well, exactly, and they can do that at the time of building.
It's a question of whether it's the developer
or whoever's building.
or whoever buys it.
Right, and it'll impact it differently depending on where they build it on the property. So that's we're just asking for it to defer. We're not getting it waived.
I know.
We're just deferring it till a time when we know what we're doing on the property.
Mr. Chair,
Good.
I believe I will make a motion and see if my fellow commissioners agree with me or if it dies for lack of a second. If that's appropriate for you.
Go ahead.
All right, I move to approve minor subdivision 23-001 Canyon Farms, requesting approval for a minor subdivision that will create a total of 2 lots. Lot 1 at 0.74 acres, Lot 2 at 13.87 acres, located in the Agricultural Suburban Zone District on Adams Avenue in Canyon City. This does include a contingency of a drainage study and report, and not, what's the other word I'm seeking right now? A deferral.
It is, or?
It does not include a deferral. It includes a contingency that it must be done before the property is transferred. So, that's my motion. What you do with it for the 2 of you.
I'll second.
Has been moved and seconded. I gotta tell you, I'm a little, I feel like I've got, things I want to say, but I really probably
Well,
shouldn't.
I feel like I've been beat up a little bit too, Matt.
No, I totally get it.
I think we're all feeling the stress right now.
Hey, it's not an easy thing here, because I understand both philosophies, or however you want to say it, so,
Back to our original discussion. I just can't see my way around to what you were saying earlier. I think a drainage plan only helps a person find a good building site, and I don't think it dictates. I think that is not correct. I don't think it dictates to them. Seeing the proper drainage on the front end, I think is still a better way to go. But now, I'm looking at, this topo, and it seems in one case, it's looking to, in one application, it would have been helpful, and this one it's not.
Well, don't look at it then.
yeah. I'm right there with you.
If I may, I apologize if I did not explain the difference clearly enough at the beginning. Again, the other application, it would have allowed somebody to take a guess, but it still would not have been the deciding factor whether or not I agreed with deferment. On this one, it's there. It allows us to take a guess, but even our own county staff, the engineer, after reviewing all of that, still did not recommend deferment of it. So maybe I wasn't clear enough.
And the planning commission also approved the waiver, recommended the waiver.
The deferral.
The deferral. Fill in the
Specified as a
blank, the
waiver
correct
at that
term.
point, but.
And,
But
we shouldn't be.
Hold on. But as far as all of that, all of these things are recommendations. This entire packet's a recommendation to the people that actually have to make the freaking decision. And so I'm a little miffed right now that I feel like we've gotten a couple different approaches on this coming into this meeting. And I gotta say, I'm not real happy. Fact of the matter is, Matt, I don't agree with you on our first discussion. I just don't. I think I think a drainage requirement is perfectly reasonable to put in on the front end, and it doesn't dictate anything as far as where things can go. Maybe I'm completely wrong, and okay, won't be the first time and the last time today. But this topo that has been provided that would have been helpful on the last one now is not helpful on this one. I'm honestly, to my colleagues, I'm torn on whether or not I want to support the motion.
One of the things, if I may, that made a difference for me was when Mr. Victoria did say that regardless of a topo in our last application, he still would not have recommended a deferral. He still would have asked for this to be a contingency. So despite the conversation and despite saying it could have helped, the end result would have been the same.
Which tells me that it could or couldn't have helped, and it wouldn't have made any difference. And what's the point of having the requirement in our regs if the outcome is going to be the same? We're still going to require drainage, whether it's front end or back end.
Well, Mr. Chair, too, if I may, one of my breaking points, too, is I am not an expert on this, and I'll admit to it. I'm not an engineer. So I have to rely on the people we have in those places that make those decisions and take their recommendations, sometimes whether I agree with them or not, but that's also a factor to consider.
Agreed. And we've all been in these positions many times where,
Is this your client? I'm just, no? It's up to you, Mr. Chair. I'll let Mr. Chair.
is it relevant to this? Yes. Then come on up to the mic and introduce yourself.
I'm not sure if I'm going to help or not, but I do. My name's Ron Dudley. I'm a resident of Fremont County. And as an observer in the audience, I just had a question of clarification. And hopefully we can shed a little bit of light with the question itself in regards to the requirement up front of having the contour or meeting the requirements prior to subdividing to meet the requirements that you have, Dan, in your evaluation of the contour, soil, whatever needs to be done, could there be is there a requirement after your evaluation of mitigation to drainage? Say, for instance, you look at it and say, hey, we need to put in a holding pond, all this drains to a holding pond that gets deferred to a creek or something else, and does that have to be evaluated with the plan up front?
So the drainage plan being submitted, I would then turn over, I'm not an engineer.
Right.
I'll be the first to say that. So if we were to receive a drainage on this, any application, it would go over to the county engineer for his review and his assessment of if it's going to be adequate for the project that's being proposed.
Okay.
Based off of his recommendation, I would make my recommendation.
So it's possible that the engineer could say, with the submittal of this contour up front and drainage, we were going to require, because of the division of the land itself, a drainage mitigation to a holding pond that would go into a creek. Is that a possibility?
It could be.
Okay, by deferring that, are you preventing a problem from having been resolved up front by deferring it to a later date? If you don't have an engineer report that says this needs to be mitigated as part of the subdivision up front, then you don't know.
So we're off track here as far as how procedures go.
Okay, I apologize.
There's no direct
Right.
dialogue with staff.
Okay.
So I appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any further comments?
No.
No.
No, sir.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Commissioner Bell,
Aye.
Commissioner McFall.
Aye.
She said aye, I could hear her.
Yeah, I heard that. Barely. Oh. Aye.
Commissioner Grantham.
So there are further comments, I guess. Obviously, this is passed. So my issues I will resolve. But it won't happen this morning. You and I can talk sometime about our disagreement.
With the change in regulations, we can maybe look at that as well. So,
Absolutely.
With that in mind, I will vote aye.
Motion carries.
thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
Thanks, Matt.
Next on our agenda,
Step up to the plate. No, I'm just kidding. God,
I was excited and now I am not.
I'm not excited. I don't like that kind of stuff.
Next on our agenda, temporary use permit 23-002 for Marchand Ranch Wedding and Event Center, requesting approval of a temporary use permit for a wedding and event venue to last for the duration of 1 year from date of approval. With us today, the applicant, Tiffany Foster. Would you please introduce yourself and tell us what you're doing?
All right, I'm Tiffany Foster, and I have Marchand Ranch Wedding and Event Venue. I am trying to bring a classy, elegant space for events and weddings. It is on my family's ranch that's been in the family for, gosh, over 100 years, or right at. And we're out on Highway 9, 5 miles out, so we're kind of out of the way, but yet still close. And everything seems to be going well, I hope. We'll see after we, but
Okay.
that's it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any questions, comments?
Not
Staff
at this
report.
time.
Not at this time.
Staff report.
Hello, everyone. So in front of us, we have TUP 23-002 Marchand Ranch Wedding and Event Center. Applicant Tiffany Foster. The subject property is located at 4807 County Road 9 in Canyon City. The property consists of 215 acres located in the Agricultural Forestry Zone District. Let's see. Canyon Rental, the applicant has provided agreements from Canyon Rental for the chemical toilets. Howard Disposal has submitted, there's already a dumpster on site to service the event. They're proposing no improvements at this time. The applicant is requesting the use of chemical toilets for events. The surety, the applicant has requested a bond waiver. So the surety bond waiver, the applicant stated that since she resides on the property, she has an interest in making sure it stays in good condition. Numerous other county agencies we've reached out to for response. We have no negative feedback. They've satisfied all the requirements that any other county agency or anyone else would require. Code made a couple observations on the site, and the applicant has provided adequate explanations of those observations. So at this time, Planning and Zoning makes the recommendation to approve this TUP application to cover from date of approval to 1 year from the date, providing the use of chemical toilets is approved by this board.
Okay.
I can comment on the chemical use toilets as well.
Good.
Those are, I'm building those, and are not chemical use, but on-site facilities. And I already have that building permit through Wyatt. So.
Good.
Oh, so chemical toilets would be temporary till that's finished?
Correct. Yes.
Thanks.
Yes.
What about your drainage plan?
I already have that. Yeah, seriously. A lot
gonna
of
be my
stuff. You meant septic. I've got the septic. Got the stamp of approval by Wyatt. I am going to not even come here with the drainage plan. I will make sure it's done before I come in here.
I just have a quick question, and I think I know the answer to this, but you're in the Tallahassee Fire Protection District, correct?
Yes, I am 2.3 miles away from them.
Okay.
I have a question for staff.
Please.
I understand this is a temporary use permit, but I'm not certain why we're looking at doing this for 1 year from date of approval, and then what's going to happen a year from now?
Okay, so I've already had discussions with the applicant, and they're aware that if they choose to, they can apply for a SRU permit, special use application. Since they wanted to get their event center up and going, the TUP was the shortest process in order to get them started. They have already been given the SRU application and are working towards that goal, but that process is typically a little bit longer and would prevent them from getting going. So right now, we do have a TUP for us. It is for 1 year. They are hopeful to have 2 to 3 events a week throughout the life of this permit. And if for some reason the SRU was not submitted to us prior to this expiration, they would be applying for another TUP to try and extend it out another year. And that's kind of a standard practice for some folks that are seeing the viability of their project. But at a certain point in time, we like to see them switch over from TUPs to that SRU and finalize their permitting.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you for that explanation. And for clarification, an SRU actually requires a public hearing, correct?
Absolutely, an SRU.
Whereas a TUP does not.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, so an SRU would require public hearing and postings and all sorts of stuff to alert the public.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
No, I have a motion if you're ready, Mr. Chair.
Please.
I move to approve temporary use permit 23-002, Marchand Ranch Wedding and Event Center. The subject property is located at 4807 County Road 9, Canyon City. Property consists of 215 acres located in Agriculture Forestry Zone District with a waiver for the surety bond and, I don't know how to say this, permission to use chemical toilets.
Approval of-
Approval of
Approval of
chemical
use.
toilets.
Yeah. Approving the use of the chemical toilets,
Yep.
yeah. Okay,
And that is all.
All right, second.
okay.
Thank you very much.
Did you want to?
Oh. Hurry up. No, I'm kidding.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner McFall,
Aye.
Commissioner Bell,
Aye.
Commissioner Grantham.
Aye.
Motion carries.
It does look like a beautiful space out there, so I would just say congratulations and good luck. We hope you do well.
Thank you so much. I
Good luck.
appreciate it.
Okay.
Very, very much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay. Introduce yourself
I'm Ty Foster.
for the millions of people watching.
The worker. But just the address for the record is Highway 9, State Highway 9. Instead of County Road 9.
You're right.
Sure does.
Thank you.
State Highway 9.
Didn't catch that.
I
Knew
even
that.
read that way, didn't I?
Yeah. Knew that and
Thanks, Ty.
just missed it. Thanks, sir. All right. Finally, Mr. Kroll, we are to you. You know what the right answer is, yes, on the drainage report. Number 5, annual ambulance license renewals. Please tell us what you got.
So it's that time of year again where I'm here for ambulance licensing renewals for all of the ALS and BLS and critical care ambulances that transport in and out of Fremont County, provide mutual aid to Fremont County agencies, and getting those renewed for the next calendar year of the licenses, which is April 30th, 2023 through April 30th, 2024.
Okay.
So, Mr. Chair, we have several of these before us, and we typically have to do these on an individual basis.
So you want to kick us off here?
Sure. So the first one that we have here is for American Medical Response. I see, Michael, that you are recommending ALS
That is
for American Medical Response. So, Mr. Chair, I move to approve this ALS license through the end of April of 2024 for American Medical Response, also known as AMR.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. And before we do roll call, is there anything specific on any of these that we need to address up front? Otherwise, let's just motor right through these.
You can move right through them.
All right.
They're either ALS or BLS, and there's only one BLS agency in Fremont County this year. Everybody is ALS or above, which is critical care, which is still ALS.
Okay, thank you for that. It's been moved and seconded. Further discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Bell,
Aye.
Commissioner McFall,
Aye.
Commissioner Grantham.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Motion?
Next one, Mr. Chair, Arkansas Valley Ambulance District. Michael suggests they be ALS approved. I move to approve that.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Further discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner McFall,
Aye.
Commissioner Bell,
Aye.
Commissioner Grantham.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Up next is Deer Mountain Fire Protection District. The recommendation is for BLS, or Basic Life Support. through the end of April of 2024. Mr. Chair, I move to approve Deer Mountain Fire Protection District for a BLS license during that time frame.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Bell.
Aye.
Commissioner McFall.
Aye.
Commissioner Grantham.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Mr. Chair, the next one up is Flight for Life. It's been recommended for ALS. I move to approve ALS for Flight for Life through the end of April 2024.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner McFall.
Aye.
Commissioner Bell.
Aye.
Commissioner Grantham.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, up next is the Florence Fire Protection District. These are kind of my peeps. So this recommendation also is for ALS through the end of April of 2024. I move to make that approval.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Bell.
Aye.
Commissioner McFall.
Aye.
Commissioner Grantham.
Aye.
Motion carries.
And if I could on that one, just as a reminder to everybody, Florence Fire Protection District does cover Penrose and Florence with their new ambulance district. So that was huge for those folks, and they have their new quarters over in Penrose now. So a lot of good things happening there. They've worked really hard. The citizens supported them. So big things going on over there, and it's been good for the county and those citizens in those areas.
Very exciting stuff. Thanks for that reminder,
I
Michael.
kind of like that on that. Unfortunately, they've been very busy, but that shows that the need for that was there, and God bless them.
Okay.
Next, and Mr. Chair, Security Fire Department was recommended for ALS. I move to approve ALS for Security Fire Department.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner McFall.
Aye.
Commissioner Bell.
Aye.
Commissioner Grantham.
Aye.
Motion carries.
And last but certainly not least is UC Health, MHS, doing business as UC Health Lifeline. This again is an ALS license to run through the end of April of '24. I make that motion, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Bell.
Aye.
Commissioner McFall.
Aye.
Commissioner Grantham.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I could.
Please.
I would just say thank you, Michael. I know this is a major, major process that you go through every year. We have had years that we've sat up here for 2 or 3 hours trying to sort out what was going to happen with all of these. And so I just want to say thank you, truly, for doing your job, for doing it professionally, and getting these done and in line for us to consider this morning. Well done.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Like I've said before, being up here, I have great folks that I work with on the emergency response side. It is a team effort. They're prepared, they're organized. COVID was something else. There's still supply chain shortages, but I'll tell you, it's great to work with these folks and know that when we need them here in Fremont County, for whatever the reason may be, that they're organized and they're going to be here to help us with the relationships that have been built. So it is great.
Okay.
Thanks, Michael.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next item, last item on our agenda, the Fremont County Fair Board bylaw approval. For this, I turn to Commissioner McFall.
Sure, thank you, Mr. Chair. So the Fair Board has went over the bylaws again and made a few changes. One of the coolest ones, I guess, is this now Fremont County Fair and Rodeo. So they've changed the name to that. They're going to incorporate a rodeo in this year. They have actually a Colorado Pro Rodeo coming in one day, as well as the Ranch Rodeo. Other thing to note is they changed the number of participants on the board. It'd consist of 7 to 13 persons. They had to do a little bit of housekeeping in here. Just used to have their meetings at a different building. Now they're at Pathfinder Park, so that's noted in here. That was really about the biggest changes to, that was really about the biggest changes to these bylaws. And the Fair Board has approved them, then they come to us for approval, and then they will be enacted. And with that, Mr. Chair, I'd move to approve the Fair Board bylaws, Fremont County Fair and Rodeo bylaws, as they are given to us here.
Presented.
Presented. There we go. That's the word.
Okay.
Sometimes you lose that word.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner McFall.
Aye.
Commissioner Bell.
Aye.
Commissioner Grantham.
Aye.
Motion carries.
With that, we are at the end of our agenda with no more business before this board today. We are adjourned.
Drainage plan.